And welcome back. I'm Tony Etzeni. Mike Ferlazzo out tonight. Ben Carroll producing the radio side. Maggie Sutton on the television side. Tim Weideman and who is it? Kevin Cunningham back there tonight getting all the scores. You can go to 13now.com and iowasportsconnection.com as far as girls and boys basketball scores being posted as we speak. But right now, through 8 o'clock, from 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock every Friday night on the Winter Sports Edition show, we talk and dedicate the hour to Iowa high school wrestling. My goodness. It's one of the most popular sports in the state of Iowa, so why not do the right thing and make sure we talk Iowa high school wrestling? At the bottom of the hour, we'll talk to Wyatt Schultz from The Predicament. They like to keep wrestling on the move, and we'll talk to them each and every week as there are experts from thepredicament.com. And we'll also talk to Brian Sweet out of Martinsdale St. Mary's, the head wrestling coach there. But right now, Denver-Tripoli, and if you're a wrestling fan, you know how good they usually are. And he is the head coach. Chris Krueger joins us tonight here on the show. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Boy, what can you say? If you're a wrestling fan, you know it's great to be here in the state of Iowa, Chris. But for those who have never heard from you or seen you before, tell us about where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? How'd you get into wrestling? How'd you end up at Denver-Tripoli?
Well, I'm actually a Denver grad, so I wrestled for Denver before we were Denver-Tripoli. But Denver grad, went to Winona State, and then graduated from UNI. And coached a little bit at coached a couple of years at Tripoli, then Charles City, and then made it back to my alma mater and tried to get the program turned around there, and I think we've been successful at doing that.
Yeah, it's been fun down there in that area. And Denver and Tripoli, these guys know each other very well because they compete against each other in most sports, but then in wrestling, they get to come together and be teammates. What's that like, Coach?
Oh, it's great. Just like you said, they compete in other things, but they're still teammates, foremost in wrestling, and we get together, do a lot of stuff in the summer, and we're the Titans, and they feel like they belong, and there's a family we built there, and started through our youth program, and I think it's continued on through the high school.
Now, how many of your kids are from Denver High School, and how many are from Tripoli when you look at your squad?
We're usually about 2/3 Denver and probably a third Tripoli, and it kind of breaks down usually that way on the varsity level as well. Kind of about the same way. Usually about 2/3 of the weights are Denver guys, and then the other third Tripoli.
Now, I know we have a school in this area, Collins, Maxwell's together, Baxter's by themselves, but they play together in a lot of sports in Collins, Maxwell, Baxter. That takes a lot of commitment from kids because there's a little drive time, and in order to go to practice every day, people don't understand the commitment that these kids have to make when you have a consolidated school district like you.
Oh, yeah, like I said, it's wrestling just in general is such a commitment, but like you said, when you got to hop on a bus and you're cutting weight and you got to drive 20 minutes every night to practice and doing that, it can be a grind and start to wear on you. So, that's great those kids are willing to make that sacrifice.
And one of the things they also enjoy is the Saturdays, of course, the tournaments across the state, and it's regardless of class, and it's an individual sport. Although the team name's on there, the team gets the points. Wrestlers are on an island; they're out there mano a mano. So what they do on the mat's seen by everybody. It's such a good individual sport, and you've got some outstanding kids. Let's start with Dylan Peters. He won the 112 title last year. He was unbeaten in 50 matches. That's a pretty salty record. That tells you how good that kid is, and of course, that's a pretty recognizable name.
Yeah, he's like our little mini Hercules for us. He just has always been a real hammer and continues to work hard. He's a great leader in the room. He's just always grinding away, always getting better. Anything he can do to get better, and he never takes a break. But if he's on a break, he's always helping another kid out in the room and trying to help them and kind of pass that legacy along. So just great kid.
That's what's interesting about your program and really all the established wrestling programs in the state. Boy, there's a lot of generations of family names that just seem to come through. Another one in your area is the Sorensen name, and Brandon's the next in line, just a sophomore. He won the 130-pound title last year, but that name's synonymous with wrestling in your area as well.
Yeah, he's his brother Brick's starting for Upper Iowa this year in their program. Brandon's just been a stud for us. Like you said, just continually wrestling well, winning state titles. We actually have his brother Brock as a freshman is in our varsity lineup in the upper weights. So, we'll continue to use those guys, and they're just they've been a big part. The Sorensens run the Cedar Valley Mat Club for years. Their dad Dwight's an assistant on my staff, and a lot of those kids have come up through his program as well. So just a lot of influence from the Sorensen family.
I'm here in the Des Moines area, and I think we'd probably be amazed if we saw the numbers that small town schools like Denver-Tripoli and the others that have such tradition, Don Bosco, at these youth tournaments, your youth programs. Tell us about your youth programs and how important they are, and how these kids who started, winning their winning ways has developed and gotten these kids' eyes, and now all these younger kids are, aspiring to be what they are at the high school level.
Yeah, I know we're one of kind of really, a couple 1A programs put together, so we're not real big, but we're usually typically about 75, K through 5th grade kids in there, and it's a madhouse, and it's kind of hard to actually, sometimes we wish it was smaller numbers just so you can work with them, but we're able to build that program through them. But a lot of them, in our area anyway, when Dylan Peters comes in the room, or Brandon Sorensen, or Gunnar Wolfensberg, or some of those kids, we have an autograph night, and it's like, an NFL team coming in. They really look up to these guys, want to learn moves from them. And our high school kids do a good job of getting in there and working with the youth and continuing to pass that torch down.
We're talking to Denver-Tripoli head wrestling coach Chris Krueger here on the Winter Sports edition of a Friday Night Live, every Friday night from 8 to 9. We dedicate it to the sport of wrestling here in the state. Chris, let's continue to talk about some of the place winners from last year's state tournament that are back this year for your squad. At 140, he finished third last year. Corey Chapin, 43-10 record, a third-place finisher. Where's he wrestling at this year for you as far as with all the weight changes this year?
Right now, he started off at 152. He's ranked at 145. I'm not real sure where he's going to go. He's a unique individual, and he weighs about 149, and he doesn't like to cut any weight whatsoever. So he's kind of set his sights on staying at 152, and we sent him at the Keith Young, which was a loaded bracket there, and said, well, let's see how you do at 152 and go from there. And he was in the finals, lost to Bubba Hernandez from Bettendorf in overtime in the finals. So he had a great showing there, so right now he's at 152, and we're not quite sure if he'll end up at 45 or not, but we'll kind of let that play out.
That means Garrett Smith probably added some weight because he was at 152 last year, and he finished third for you.
Yeah, Garrett's always been a big guy that's cut a lot of weight, and this year he tore an ACL in football, and we're going to get him back, but it's going to be after Christmas break, so we're not real sure where he's going to settle in, but it's going to be up quite a bit from there. Right now we're as a coaching staff, we're aiming at probably putting him at 182, actually. Just fits well into our lineup, and we think he wrestles well, actually up weight and not worrying about the weight loss and just focus on his wrestling. So we think he'll be probably anywhere from 170 to 195, actually, but probably 182 when it's all said and done.
Now, Coach, a lot of folks haven't seen it. The weight changes, a few pounds in different spots, but an added weight class this year, which kind of helps, especially at the bigger weights. But talk about what the weight changes mean as a head wrestling coach and the good and bad of what happened this year as far as the changes.
Well, I can tell you for our program, we've traditionally, over the last 5-8 years, we've had a great program, but we have not been very good in the upper weights. We're definitely a lower weight program, it seems like, for whatever reason. And it's kind of the same way this year. Even last year, our heavyweight qualified, but he weighed 189 pounds. He actually had to drink about a gallon of water before weigh-ins just to even weigh enough to qualified heavyweight. And we're kind of in the same boat this year. We got a freshman and a sophomore that are really 170-pounders that we're putting weight on them. Even last Thursday night, we had to put weight on our kid to get him up to 182.1 just so he could wrestle 220. So we have good athletes. It just seems they're small, or at least in that 160, 170 range. So we're going to have to get crafty, I guess, as a coaching staff and continue to use kind of smaller, more athletic guys up in the bigger weights. And it's worked for us in the past, but that's where we're heading right now. I think in the future it won't be too bad for us. My 8th grade and freshman class are a lot bigger bodied kids, so maybe we'll start throwing those weights on a little better. But for right now, it wasn't a great move for us because we got a lot of talented middleweights, and they took one of the weights out of there, and obviously added one of the upper weights where we're not quite as salty. So,
well, so where are you heading this weekend? You wrestling anywhere?
Southwind Invitational. We'll see Osage and a lot of teams from our district, like MFL and North Fayette traditionally is up in that area, and some of those programs up that way. Decorah, who's now in 3A, and then Waukon, who's also in our sectional. So.
Well, you always have a target on your back when you say Denver-Tripoli when it comes to wrestling, Coach. That means you've got a great thing going, a great staff, and a bunch of kids that put in the hard work. Congratulations on what you've accomplished there. We wish you the best of luck this wrestling season, and hopefully we'll catch up to you again throughout the year. Best of luck, Coach.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Coach Chris Krueger out of Denver-Tripoli, the head wrestling coach there. Outstanding wrestling program. A lot of tradition up there at Denver-Tripoli.